I've always believed that your body and your business are way more connected than people actually think. So for the past 30 days, I tracked 3 things: my sleep, my workouts, and the daily revenue of my company. And my goal was to answer just one simple question: do physical gains drive business growth? If I lifted heavier, slept better, and showed up sharper, would it actually show up in my bank account? So every day, I logged my sleep with my Oura Ring, I tracked my lifting performance, and I noted our company's revenue. And now I've got data, lessons, and a few surprising curveballs that I want to share with you guys. I've been building companies for years, and some months are wild. There are sales spikes, cash is flowing, and everybody's fired up. But then there are other months where it feels like I'm dragging 10,000 pounds up a hill in the rain with zero traction. And whenever I was in those lows, I'd catch myself looking for answers in all of the familiar places. So lead gen systems, new tools, that type of thing. Rarely did I look inward and think, maybe my mind isn't sharp because my body is running on fumes. So I designed a test to see if my sleeping and my lifting had an impact on my growth. So for 30 days, I tracked the metrics that mattered to me. So I tracked sleep quality, which is duration, timing, and consistency of my sleep, strength training, so how much weight I lifted and progressive overload, and then revenue generated, so daily deal flow, closes, and monthly recurring revenue. Now, this wasn't about ads or getting 8 hours or anything like that. I wanted to see if these habits changed how I showed up to lead, and the results are pretty surprising. So this is how I tracked everything. If I were going to get real insights from this experiment, I had to be a little obsessive, but I didn't want to make it too complicated. I used a super simple Google sheet. It was just 1 tab, 1 row per day, and that's it. And here's exactly how I broke it down. The first is sleep, which is the recovery engine. So I track my sleep using my Oura Ring, but you could easily use an Apple Watch. I've got one of those too, or you can use a Whoop. And every night I recorded my total sleep time, sleep efficiency, my heart rate variability or HRV, and my sleep consistency. Now, the 2 metrics that really mattered the most were when I went to bed and how rested I felt in the morning. Those 2 dictated my energy, my mindset, and ultimately how I showed up in the gym and then later on Zoom and meetings. The second is lifting, and that's performance and progressive overload. And as normal, I hit the gym 5 times a week, and for every session, I tracked 3 things: the exercises that I did, the sets, reps, and rests between them, and then the total weight lifted. And if you're curious, I track everything with the Rept app that is available. That's REPD on the App Store. Really makes things a lot easier. Now, each workout log showed me whether I was pushing myself harder than last time. If I increased the weight or I added reps, I'd highlight it to track progressive overload. And that one habit kept me accountable and it made the progress feel real. More weight or more reps didn't just mean bigger muscles. I wanted to see if it actually translated to better work output. And the third is revenue, and that to me was the business scoreboard. So each night before bed, I'd do a quick review. I looked at HubSpot for daily revenue, I tracked new deals, churn, the shifts in monthly recurring revenue, and I would jot down a few notes about how I felt. So it was stuff like I was tired, but I nailed a call or something like that. And this tiny end of day ritual took maybe 5 minutes, but it really helped me dial things in and get a good understanding about how certain things were affecting other things. So I started to notice patterns. A bad night of sleep meant a flat gym session. And if I had a strong lift, then that energy would carry through the rest of the day, all the way through into management meetings. What really shifted for me wasn't the numbers. It was the connection between how I slept, which affected how I trained, which affected how I showed up at work. Real quick, if you're a founder who loves real world performance experiments, then you want to hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is for builders. It's for leaders. It's for people who actually want to scale companies and themselves. So if you're obsessed with growth, both personal and professional, then welcome, because you are in the right spot. Here's what I learned about sleep and leadership. The first thing is sleep. And for me, it was the keystone habit. It held everything else together. I didn't just feel better after a good night's sleep, I performed better, and it was measurable. On days where I logged 7.5 hours or more, a few things stood out to me. I replied to investor emails 2 or 3 times faster. I made quicker decisions with more clarity and confidence. My team meetings were sharper and tighter and more focused. My sales calls flowed. I was present and I wasn't pushing. There was one day in particular I still think about. I got 8 hours of sleep. I crushed a heavy lift in the morning, and I walked straight into a tough customer call where we thought we were going to lose the customer, but I wasn't reacting reactive, I was steady. I listened instead of defending. I reframed their concerns, and mid-call, I proposed a new pricing model and they signed on the spot. And that win wasn't luck, it was capacity. And that capacity came from sleep. And over the full 30 days, I observed a trend where on nights I got less than 6.5 hours of sleep, our deal flow decreased by 33% compared to the average. I'm not claiming that it's a randomized controlled trial. I'm not brushing it off either. As a founder, those aren't just fluctuations. It's a pattern worth paying attention to. The plan wasn't complicated, just solid structured work. Heavy compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, and bench press, some accessory movements, some conditioning, nothing flashy, just intentional. I logged every workout. So sets, reps, weights, rest periods. I even took notes on how I felt after. Some days were strong, some were a grind, but the one thing that I kept coming back to was consistency, because it wasn't about chasing a six-pack, it wasn't a body transformation story, it was a disciplined experiment. After a hard lift, I didn't just feel physically stronger, I felt capable. I'd walk out of the gym sharper, I'd be more dialed in, and there was momentum. It was like my nervous system was just tuned for action. Training gave me a quiet engine under the surface, not loud motivation, just steady energy that motivated me into everything else. It also gave me something that I didn't expect, which is a stress armor. Startups feel like whiplash. One day you're stacking MRR, you're signing investors. The next you're dealing with churn or a product issue that you did not see coming. But the gym never changed. It became the one place where the rules stayed completely the same. The barbell doesn't care what kind of day you have. And every time I showed up, especially when I didn't want to, it reminded me that I could keep going. By the third week, I hit 2 PRs that I had not touched in months. That same week, I closed 2 deals that were nearly written off. Maybe that was a coincidence, but I noticed something. I was speaking more clearly. I made decisions more quickly with less mental effort. I was less reactive. I was more grounded. And the thing that really brought it full circle for me was that lifting improved my sleep. I recovered better, which led to improved training, and that resulted in better performance at work. And it all started to reinforce itself. It was lift, recover, perform, repeat. And what it taught me was this: time in the gym wasn't time away from the business. It was the reason that I had more time to give to the business. The third thing I learned was how revenue trends reflect everything else. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is the part that actually surprised me. The first 2 weeks, revenue held totally steady. There was no big spikes, no outliers, just consistent, flat performance. But even without the numbers moving yet, I felt better. I was more grounded, I was more clear-headed. Then week 3 rolled around and something shifted. Inbound started to pick up. Deals we hadn't heard from in weeks started to circle back. I noticed I was moving faster, I was sharper on calls, I was quicker on follow-ups, I was more fluid in negotiations. And then whenever week 4 landed, we had the best sales day of our entire quarter. And maybe that was random, but I don't think so, because what I saw and felt was the compound effect of everything else starting to take hold. It was small, consistent wins every single day. Because I was sleeping well, I was training with focus, I was reflecting each night, and I started showing up differently. Now, sales calls weren't draining, they were energizing. Strategy sessions weren't scattered, they were direct. Even in the most high-stakes conversations, I wasn't tense, I was steady. And it wasn't just something in me. I think my team felt it. My customers, I think, felt it. The momentum just grew. And the big unlock here was this: we didn't close more deals just because I was burning 12-hour days. We closed more deals because I was putting my best energy into the highest leverage work. I wasn't reacting, I was choosing. And that is what made the difference. If you're a founder, here's the part that really landed for me. Your startup doesn't need more hours from you. It needs the most effective version of you consistently. The version that leads with energy, that recovers on purpose, that trains, sleeps, and operates with clarity instead of chaos. That's where growth actually comes from. Next comes the challenges that I faced and the temptations that I had to quit. This wasn't some flawless high-performance month. There were nights whenever I caught myself staring at my phone at 11:30 p.m., knowing that I should sleep, but I was tempted to keep scrolling. Some days lifting felt like a gift, and then other days it felt like it was a chore and I did not want to be there. There were plenty of mornings where I was sitting with my notebook and I was thinking, is this even doing anything? Is tracking all of this actually worth it? The truth is, discipline takes work. Logging every lift, tracking every hour of sleep, keeping a close eye on revenue, all of that adds up. And there were moments where I wanted to pull the plug and say, hey, this is good enough, let's move on. But I didn't, because I told people, I told my team I was doing this. I shared it with a few founder friends. I put it out there, 30 days of tracking input, sleep, lifting, and business performance. That small amount of external accountability made a significant difference. Not in a heavy, crushing way, it was just enough pressure to keep going whenever it got really hard. But what mattered to me more than anything outside was the reminder of why I started. Every founder I know says some version of the same thing when we talk, whether it's a coaching session or just grabbing coffee. I want to feel more in control. Not in control over the market or their customers or even the team, they mean more control over themselves. And that's exactly what this challenge gave. Not because I had some massive mindset shift or I hit some crazy breakthrough moment, but because I kept doing the work, going to bed on time, showing up to train, and reviewing my numbers, even when they weren't great. That kind of repetition builds something. By the end of 30 days, I realized that I wasn't just tracking inputs. I was rebuilding a sense of control, not over outcomes, but how I showed up. More than any tool I've tried, any book I've read, or any coach I've hired, this challenge gave me back the wheel. It didn't make everything easier. It just made me more prepared to handle it. So, how did this change my system moving forward? The 30 days are technically over, but I am not done. This wasn't just a sprint to prove a point. It became a foundation for something much longer term. A new operating system for how I lead and how I build the company. Here's what I've implemented permanently. Sleep cutoff. So no screens after 9:30 p.m. I'm in bed by 10:30 and that's a non-negotiable. I treat sleep like it's any other essential resource in the business because that's what it is. Without it, the rest breaks down. 3 non-negotiable lift days. These workouts are scheduled into my calendar just like investor calls. They're not optional, they are a part of the job. Daily review. So every evening I fill out one sheet. Revenue and deal activity, energy levels, a quick reflection on what worked and what didn't. It takes less than 10 minutes, but it has changed how I plan for the day. This shift isn't just personal, it's cultural. We've brought this mindset to the team. Now, every stand-up starts with a simple check-in. How are you performing personally and professionally? This isn't filler, it's not therapy, it's a signal. It's a reminder that how we're doing internally shows up in everything we ship. Because if you're building something ambitious, your body and your mind are the engine. So if that engine breaks down, if you get burned out, if you get sleep deprived, or if you're out of sync, your company will stall, no matter how good your idea is. I used to think that systems were about tools and dashboards and automation, but now I realize the most important system is me, my habits, my rhythm, and my ability to show up clear and strong and focused. So yeah, the 30-day challenge ended, but the real work, the work of showing up as a founder every day, that's just getting started. So let's break down the result because the data tells a powerful story. First is sleep. My average sleep time increased from 6.2 to 7.4 hours per night. Now that change alone cut down on reactive decision making. I was sharper in problem solving, quicker in judgment, and calmer under pressure. The second is lifting. I trained 20 times over a 30-day period, and that confidence that came from that, the real physical confidence, showed up everywhere else. Sales calls, team meetings, investor updates. There's something about walking into a pitch after hitting a PR that just changes your tone, your posture, and your energy. The third is revenue, and we saw an 18% increase in growth compared to the previous 30-day period. We hit our highest single-day sales in over 3 months, and that wasn't because I was grinding harder, it was because I was showing up smarter and clearer and with more consistency. Now, to be fair, was that purely because I tracked my sleep and my workouts and my deal flow? No. Business is messy. There are always outside variables. But did this framework create a better condition for performance? Absolutely. The real shift wasn't physical, it was mental. I stopped feeling like the business was happening to me, and I got back into the driver's seat. That shift from reactive to intentional, that's the letter. I wasn't just checking boxes, I was building something. I had a rhythm, I had energy, and I could finally see what was actually moving the needle. So if you're a founder asking how to show up at a higher level without burning out, this is where to start. Track what fuels you, build around that, and let that become your foundation. Because real growth doesn't come from doing more, it comes from becoming the version of you that the business actually needs. There it is. 30 days of tracking sleep, lifting, and revenue. The gains were real, the growth was measurable, and the impact on my mindset as a founder was massive. If you're into behind-the-scenes experiments like this, where health, habits, and high performance collide, click the link below and check out the impact of taking cold showers for a week had on me. I'll see you over there.